Hi, everybody. We're so happy today to have Elon Epps from Hendricks College with us. She is going to share some amazing facts about this great school. So we'll turn it over to you, Elon.
Thank you. So welcome to a conversation with Hendricks College. Essentially, what I'll do is just kind of talk to you all about Hendricks, and then if your representatives have any questions for me, I'll kind of answer those towards the end. So awesome. As we get started, I typically start with a video and then move on to more of the presentation itself. Okay, awesome. So that kind of allowed you to learn a bit more about Hendricks. And so if you were actually here today on campus, you would have seen some of those sites and kind of the places I really love, including the fountain, the brick pit, and some of those places that are really central to Hendricks' life and the social scene here, which is really cool. Currently, we are virtual. And so what that really means is that everyone is at home and taking all of those classes. And the real goal is that we're going to bring all of our students back in January. But if you do want to be able to visit Hendricks, we do have 2 different visit opportunities still on campus, one at 10 a.m. every day and 1:30. And we also do have a virtual opportunity every day at 3 o'clock. And so if you go to our website, you can find those opportunities, just kind of plug those in, as well as if you ever wanted to chat with me, I also have those up as well. So to get more into kind of Hendricks itself and what that looks like, some of our programs here. So we are kind of a smaller liberal arts school. And so what that really means is you're going to build deeper personal connections with your professors and faculty members. They're going to know who you are inside and outside the classroom, whether you're the president of SGA, a part of football, or just in a student organization, or if you're really into research, they're going to ask you how that's going and know more about you than just the essay you're producing or the tests that you're doing in their classroom, which I really love. You know, I love this story about a student who always went to class and one day he missed class. And so the professor reached out to him and said, "Hey, what's going on? Why didn't you show up?" And he said, "Well, I'm sick today." And so the professor actually came to his dorm room and brought him soup. And that really shows you about the family environment that we have here at Hendricks, you know. And talking about food for a moment, our cafeteria is actually award-winning, which is really amazing because the staff there really prides themselves on making sure that everyone is okay and making sure that what they get out of the food is not just food, but actually nourishing their bodies, which I really love because I think that's really important that everyone knows who you are. So when you first step onto campus, they're going to say, "Hi, so-and-so, how's it going? Welcome to Hendricks," and all these great things because with new faculty members, staff members, and everything, they do get lists of names and all these, and I think that's really cool. Another cool tradition with our cafeteria is kind of the Hendricks birthday tradition. And what that really means is depending upon when your birthday is, your friends can go up to the cafeteria staff and ask them for a cake and they'll bring it out to you. And then everyone in the cafeteria sings you the Hendricks birthday song. And then depending upon when your birthday is, and if it's cold or warm outside, your friends also might throw you in the fountain. So that kind of tells you more about our cafeteria and some traditions that we have here that I think are really awesome and really show you why Hendricks is really a familiar environment. You're also looking at about a 10-to-1 student-faculty ratio. So if you're looking to kind of hide in a classroom, not show up to class, different things like that, Hendricks is definitely not the place for you, because you are going to have to show up, talk, and be involved in that environment. We also do really have a lot of diversity here, inside and outside of the classroom as well. And I really like to think of that as a melting pot. It really does show you what you're going to see outside of the college environment. And so some of these programs that are really essential to Hendricks and really make us who we are is the idea of engaged learning. And so what that means is you're not just going to be sitting in a classroom listening to someone drone on or writing an essay, but you're going to be engaging in what you are passionate about inside and outside of the classroom, whether that's a research project, whether that's taking on an internship, whether that's volunteering. And so we do that through this program called Odyssey. And so what Odyssey is, it has three different credits that you have to receive by the time you graduate through 6 different themes. And so that's artistic creativity, service to the world, global awareness, undergraduate research, special projects, and professional and graduate programs. And so that could be a whole host of things. For every student, it's typically different. Through global awareness, you typically see students studying abroad. Through artistic creativity, sorry, my words are kind of spilling together here this morning. You typically see students maybe taking an art class or kind of going beyond in some sort of those artistic availabilities you have here on campus. Through graduate and leadership development, you typically see students maybe playing a sport or doing an internship in the summer and different things like that. Undergraduate research, you're oftentimes seeing professors have slots open in their own research that you might join in on, which really gives you an opportunity to go outside in those fields of science or different things like that and really explore more. And so typically students are going to have just 3, but you also do find students having more towards 7 or 20 credits in Odyssey as well. And that can be more of a confusing experience to explain Odyssey, but trust me, it's really awesome because it's not something, we like to think of as not something that's really required, but it's something you get to do because you're having the opportunity to do more and expand more within your learning here at Hendricks. Another program I really love is our Murphy Scholars. And that's something you would apply for that second semester of freshman year. And so what that really looks like is that you're getting an additional $4,000 to kind of use towards internships, maybe studying abroad, or different coursework you might want to do within language and literature. And that's really what that program is about, as well as having to take an Oxford-style class and really getting kind of access to some of those forerunners within language and literature who come to class and some of those internship opportunities as well. If that's something, if you're really into language and literature, and you don't just have to be an English major to be a part of that program, they really do want to have a diversity of their scholars every year. So everyone's really encouraged to apply for that. And then kind of that third program that's really specific to Hendricks that really helps you build those skills you need for the future and preparing for your career is Career Term. And so that's something that all of our sophomores do. They come back 3 days early from winter break. And what that kind of is kind of a boot camp of sorts. It's resume writing, interview skills, and different things. And one of the things that's really awesome is that you're going to have kind of a mock interview with an alumni, and they're going to kind of tell you what you're doing good, what you're doing bad, and what you can build upon. And it's really working on the brand that you have and how to use that forward in those next steps after graduation, which is really awesome. You know, starting at sophomore year, so you're not just starting at junior or senior year and knowing, hey, I'm starting really late, but no, we're going to make sure you're starting early to get those skills early so you're ready within those summer internships and opportunities after graduation as well. Awesome, so that's kind of Hendricks in a nutshell. And so now we were thinking about, okay, so how do I apply to this place and what does it look like for me? So at Hendricks, we do have an early action 1 deadline. And so when we're saying early action, what that means is it's not binding. It simply means that you have all of your requirements early and you just want to hear something early from us, and that's November 15th. With that and kind of those requirements of our application is a transcript, which typically is going to come from your college counselor, and an essay. And so when we talk about the essay, I really like to pause here for a moment because it's not what you're writing in your English class, your history class, but it's really something that's kind of more so a personal statement. I like to say it's something that makes you sparkle. So if you were up against 4 or 5 other people in your class, What's different? What experience do you have that they don't also have? Or what's one opinion you have that's specific to you? Or different things like that, and thinking about it that way. I also think that you should have fun while you write your personal statement, because me as your admission counselor, I would really like to have fun as I read it. So think about it that way. You also want to have about 1 to 2 people read over your essay, but not more than that, because we want to make sure that your voice is still there at the end of the day. And so when they're reading it over, they're really reading it over for grammatical errors, and that your train of thought just kind of stays cohesive throughout the whole thing. As well as some of those optional things. When we say optional, we really do mean optional. And so the first one is kind of those test scores. And so Hendricks is a holistic school when we're looking at your application, which really means that it's great if you have a test score that you really love, bring it in. We'll take a look at it. But if you don't have a test score, if you don't really like your test score, that's fine too, because we're going to look at you the exact same way. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about Hendricks, as well as recommendation letters. So if you have recommendation letters, you want to show them to us, those are optional, but just 1 to 2. One time, I know a counselor got about 14, and that's a bit too much, so just 1 to 2, keeping that in mind. And when you're thinking about letters of recommendation, try to do different sorts of people, maybe a coach and a counselor, a professor who really knows you well, different things like that, to really speak to different lenses of who you are, as opposed to just one focal point. And so one thing that's really awesome at Hendricks that I think also really makes us different is this idea of tuition advantage. This is a program that started about a year ago. And it's our commitment that you guys would be paying the same tuition that you'd be paying at your flagship institution in your home state. And so I believe you guys are in Ohio. Is that correct? Awesome. And so for you guys in Ohio, you would be looking at the Ohio State University's tuition and fees. And so you would take Ohio State University's tuition and fees with our room and board, bring those together, and that would be your cost of attendance at Hendricks if you did receive tuition advantage in applying to Hendricks. And within that really makes sort of a liberal arts education, Hendricks more specifically, more available for everyone, which is really nice. So keeping in mind that about a week ago, FAFSA did open. And so if you're applying for Early Action 1 deadline, we really want to see both of those things at the same time. So you're going to receive kind of a decision on admittance, as well as a decision on your financial background and package at the same time. Awesome. So that's kind of my whole spiel. Do you have any questions for me that I could answer that I haven't already covered?
Yeah, I do. So never having been to Hendricks, I'd love to know just a little bit more about the community. What's it like? What do kids do on the weekends? And just give me a little flavor about what Conway's like.
Yeah, awesome. So one cool thing about Hendricks is I would say it's in the heart of a lot of different things, because Conway is kind of this suburb of Little Rock. So Little Rock is just about 30 minutes away. And so if you are flying in, that's going to be your hub. It's going to be the Little Rock Airport. And there, there's so much life history and different things there. We also are kind of in this mixed terrain. The Ozarks are so close. And so mountain biking, hiking, canoeing is readily available at your dispense if that's something that you're into, as well as just kind of being in a town that every single year it's kind of an influx of 60,000 people, because this is kind of a college town, Hendricks being one of them, and 2 others are also readily here. And it just has this vibe of being kind of really nice and homey and friendly, like everyone speaks to one another and making sure they're looking out for one another, and which I really like. One thing I would say is in moving here is when people find out I work at Hendricks, which kind of ties back to our cafeteria, is that they all know about it. They're like, oh, Hendricks, their Sunday brunch is amazing, or talking about the football team or something else, which I think is really cool, is we're not just kind of sideload inside of Conway versus some of the other institutions that people you think know more about, but people actually know us and know what we're doing and different things like that. Also, I think it's really cool. So the Wingate Museum, which is a part of a newer development on our campus, and the Miller Creative Quad has Let's March On, which is an exhibit going on right now. And that's really about the Black Lives Matter movement and different things like that. And so it's really showing you that we are aware of what's going on in the world and really want to make sure that everyone has that information and feels comfortable on our campus. And so when you're thinking about kind of the students who go here and sort of the resources, we have all of that for everyone. We're not kind of blind to that, but we are kind of putting that out there and making sure that everyone is given what they need when they come here as well. I kind of wanted to touch on that. So within kind of those arts environments, we have a movie festival every year where students do submit movies that they've created, and we put those on in our brick pit. And so our brick pit is kind of a place of life on campus. And so if you're here, it's right past, it's just on the other side kind of. And we have so that movie festival as well as Shirt Tales. And so that's something that happens in the fall. And so that's based on a long-standing tradition when we originally had a football team here at Hendricks. And so some of the freshman residential halls do kind of these dance skits things that they do, and they go down there and they compete. And so the whole community comes out and watches that, and that's in the fall. And that's a big part. As well as, you know, in our SLTC, our Student Life and Technology Center, we've had in the past Lizzo, Chance the Rapper, Macklemore, and so all before they got big, you know. So it's funny now that you think, well, they all came here, but it's like, yeah, so Hendrix is really in tune with the heartbeat of, I think, music and culture as well, when you think about that as going on. And also now when we're thinking about that Hendrix is in a virtual space, every single day, we still do get a list of community events that are going on, you know, just within this virtual space, you know, keeping up to date with student organizations, as well as giving students the resources they need for those next steps and different things like that.
Wow, that's great. So academically, can you just give me a little bit of info on like what are some of the most popular majors there?
Yeah, awesome. So when you're thinking about some of those popular majors, you are thinking about pre-med, health sciences, and psychology. Sorry, in my head I was about to say philosophy, but I was trying to say psychology.
It's
And those are definitely those bigger majors here, because we do have 15 pre-professional programs. And within those 15 pre-professional programs, we have a bunch of different offerings for those pre-med students, whether it's pre-med, pre-dental, pre-PT, pre-PA, pre-nursing. We also do have pre-law. It's such a wide breadth, making sure that all the students who do want to go to some of those graduate schools, as well as on the verge of doctorate programs after graduation, have all the resources they need and make sure they're on track, although they're not going to go to a university, but come to Hendricks.
Great. Okay. I love the tuition advantage program. That's amazing. But are there merit scholarships available on top of that?
Yes. So, and when you're thinking about that, it's not so much and, it's with. So for instance, let's say you had student A, that could be anyone, and they apply to Hendricks, and what you're going to be looking at is we have two different versions of institutional aid. The first one is merit-based scholarships, and that's a whole host of things. If you looked at our website, we have about 10 or so of them, and a student might get those, as well as we do have the second version. And so what I'm saying that is essentially that simply applying to Hendricks makes you applicable for all of our merit-based scholarships. And there's not a separate application for those. That's why I paused. There's not a separate application. So simply hitting submit makes you applicable for any of our merit-based scholarships. Our second set of institutional aid is our Hendricks co-curricular scholarships. And that's a separate application that just went live about a week ago. So if someone's applying through our Common App, those would be the applications that they would, those would be kind of the essays and different things they would see now. And that's kind of our Impact, our Miller, our Impact or Miller, our Performing Arts scholarships. And those are anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000. And what those are looking at is kind of the leadership service, United Methodist Foundation, any sort of performing arts you might be involved in, and different things like that. And I encourage students that if they've done service leadership, are involved in performing arts, done something with music, different things like that, apply to those, because you're not due to February 1st. So if you're going to do our early action 1 deadline, you can do those after you submit that deadline, you've submitted those. But because you never know, you know, you never want to turn aid away, and you might get the additional $1,500 or $5,000. And a lot of students do a lot of service and are involved in leadership. And so you might get those. So those are two different versions of institutional aid that I wanted to talk about. And I was going to mention something else. Those are two different versions of institutional aid that I was going to talk about. But you'd asked a different part of that question that I was going to also mention.
Oh, well, just wondering if you can stack merit scholarship on top of the tuition program.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So, and I was saying and, not with. And so what that essentially means is, so going back to student A, that's why I brought that up. So if they were to receive merit-based scholarships and different things, then, and we knew that they were applicable for tuition advantage, our people in financial aid would look at it and say, okay, well, their tuition is still higher than tuition advantage. And then they would be getting tuition advantage to make sure that their tuition would still not be higher than that of the University of Ohio.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. That makes sense. And
So
for,
off,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
So off the bat, you wouldn't be just receiving tuition advantage and like merit-based scholarships, but it's you'd be receiving whatever sort of merit-based scholarships, different things you'd be getting, and then we'd be looking at what your tuition would look like, and then in addition to that, you'd be receiving.
Okay. So whatever's financially advantageous to the student.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. And you had mentioned performing arts scholarships. Is there an audition component that goes with that?
Yes, ma'am. And so what that looks like is it goes a whole host of ways now. So a student can opt to submit a recording of themselves doing whatever sorts of performing that is.
Okay.
They can do it through setting up a meeting with someone. So it all depends on how they wish to do that. And once they have applied or started their application within that, they'll find out all that information. But yes, there is a
Great, good to know. All right, I think my last question is related to internships in the location that you're in, being so close to Little Rock. Are there opportunities for internships with the students?
Definitely. And so that all depends on your interests and what you'd want to be doing. And so the awesome thing about Odyssey is that it really allows students to bring that in throughout their time here at Hendricks. So whether that's during the year or whether that's during the summer, you're able to do that and kind of do it, whether it's in Conway or whether that's in Little Rock. And so that would be something where you connect with career services and Lee Lassiter counts and talking to her, you know, I have an interest in physical therapy or have an interest in arts, and how do I kind of get plugged into that? And so she would kind of connect within the resources she has and make sure that you're getting kind of those opportunities, whether it's during the school year or during the summer. But yes, so we definitely have all of that, whether that's going to be locally sourced wherever the student's from or here in Arkansas.
Great, sounds wonderful. That's all the questions I have. I think Christina had to step away for a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she's still gone. She's actually, I'm going to